What is happening out there, rotoscouts basketball fans? Good to see you, gang. Happy Monday. Week just getting started. Ugly, ugly, ugly looking slate for us tonight, but value galore. Starsy Scrubsy for sure. I'm sure there will be some interesting configurations that we can put together with balanced looking lineups given, some of the mid-range types, but this one is leaning Starsy Scrubsy, at least so far. We've got so many missing pieces on this slate tonight. Just a 6-gamer, but with the amount of value that's available, you can get to a lot. You can get to a lot of just whatever you want. So it's going to be an interesting one to talk through. We'll go through all the pieces, the parts, the sims, the whatnot, the what have you, the doodads and bebops of the slate. Starting to sound like a certain former president up there. Just rambling, saying whatever words come into my mouth. Let's say hi to Steven Leibowitz, who's pointing himself out as a scrub in the chat. I disagree with that, buddy. You're a star in my book, pal. Kenny Woodhouse is here. Cujo Blues, first one in the door. My Monday's gone well, uneventful. Got up early, was ready to tackle the day, and then just said, oh boy, bed looks pretty good for another couple hours, and crashed back out. But I've been gradually improving my ability to get up a little earlier in the day, which I had completely lost during football season with all those all-nighters I did. So still working on that, but yeah, pretty good day. Got the folks coming up tomorrow morning. We're going to go to breakfast up here, so be up bright and early tomorrow. Hopefully have projections and everything up on the site early tomorrow. Hopefully the week started out good for all you guys. Good weekends. Anybody do anything good exciting over the weekend? I just had DFS kind of weekend, hangout kind of weekend, but watched the Oscars. Good Oscars last night. Thought most of the deserving movies won. Funny with Al Pacino at the end, just nearly screwing up the entire thing, creating another Moonlight La La Land situation, but he managed to at least say the right movie, even though it was a little anticlimactic. Some funny bits. Thought it was a good one. Yeah, there you go, Steven. That's a good thing to touch on. The NFL. As was widely predicted, Saquon Barkley from my Giants joining the rival Philadelphia Eagles, and very likely going to push them over the top to at least strong Super Bowl contention. Just the idea of him and Hurts together is bananas behind that offensive line. So great signing by the Eagles. Unfortunate for my Giants, but that's what happens when you sign the wrong guy and give a terrible quarterback a ton of money. So we'll see what they do. Going to be moving on from Danny Dimes at some point. They had Russ Wilson in, but Russ signed with Pittsburgh for a year. I know there were a couple other biggies that have gone down, but yeah, definitely ugly day to be a Giants fan, that's for sure. So thank you for pointing that out, Stephen Leibowitz. At least my Rangers are still rolling, hopefully going to the Cup. That'll be fun. Once my Knicks get healthy, we'll be all right. Had a decent weekend. Took a 10th place on FanDuel with a single bullet day. Just been running a lot of single bullets lately. Like I said the other day, I'm at the point, I get here every March, late February, where it's just like, all right, enough, especially when these slates get this ugly. So I just start playing like one lineup here and there. I play every day, but I've not been playing 150 over the past couple of weeks. But decent little day. It was targeted to the top. I really thought it was going to get there. Fell a little bit short. If I had played KD with 100 left on the table, if I had played KD over Jason Tatum in a head-to-head matchup, would have took it down. Would have won it by like 25 points, which kind of sucked, but it was a good day. Sunday, not so much. Missed the cash on Sunday. Playing on both sites tonight. Just going single bullet again. FanDuel running. I'm playing in the main contest. They're running a $40K up top, and then they've got a $3 10K. And then DraftKings, I'll throw a lotto ticket into that one. 100,000 some odd entries for $100,000, but only a $4 buy-in. So that's a fun one. Jacobs to the pack. I hadn't seen that one, Matt. That's a good one. Yeah, that'll be, Josh Jacobs to the pack. Yeah, so Christian Wilkins to Vegas, Josh Jacobs to the pack, Xavier McKinney to the pack too, apparently, according to Kevin Cash App in the Discord here. Another biggie. Anyway, let's get talking basketball here. Like I was saying, it is a ugly value kind of slate. You can see some of the names up at the top. Any day you get Javon Freeman, Liberty, Trace Jackson, Davis, Grady, Dick, Jordan, Nwora as your top 4 guys, obviously. It's a good day, and we're talking about just quality basketball players. Should be fun. A lot of minutes-based expectation here, a lot of price-based expectation here. Out of those top 4 guys, 2 or 3 of them will probably fail to actually deliver what we need from them. Will they get around this, the median projections, maybe a couple points shy, a couple points above. But is any one of those guys going to really crush the ceiling? My money's probably on Trace Jackson Davis with the biggest upside in points per minute, with plenty to do. The fact that he put up a 29 in 23 minutes the other day, but it's not pretty up there. But we're going to need all those different pieces. You can see where the percentages are as we're glancing at it. But let's talk game environments. We'll start with the injuries because there's a lot of them. So through the day, Derek White, Jason Tatum, and Jaylen Brown all confirmed active for the Celtics. They all started the day as questionable. You can see those are names 6, 7, and 8 on that, in rows 6, 7, and 8 rather, on this list. So all 3 of those guys become highly relevant in a kind of a pushover game against Portland. Drew Holiday's out. Kristaps Porzingis is out. So a little bit of consolidation around Boston. A little bit of additional value for guys like Sammy Hauser, Peyton Pritchard. We'll get into it. We'll take a look and we'll talk about them. Probables for the day: Quentin Grimes, Devin Booker, Torrey Craig, Draymond Green, Moses Moody, Devin Vassell, RJ Barrett. The Raptors are a total mess. If RJ doesn't go, and if Bruce Brown doesn't go, who's on the next list, the questionables. Questionables: Aja Thompson, Bruce Brown, DeAndre Jordan, Jaylen Brown. Jaylen's not questionable anymore. Let me skip over the Celtics. So Aja Thompson, Bruce Brown, DeAndre Jordan, Jeremy Grant, Ashton Haggins, Justin Minaya, potentially creating more chaos in the Portland game, on the Portland side of the Portland-Boston game. So if Bruce Brown doesn't go and RJ Barrett doesn't go, it just gets crazy ugly for Toronto. The players that Toronto is missing: Scotty Barnes, Chris Boucher, Jakob Poeltl, Emmanuel Quickley, Gary Trent Jr., all out already. Plus RJ questionable, Bruce Brown questionable. So that could get disastrous. Weird. Trying to keep Joker calm over here. So the other outs across the rest of the league: the entire Charlotte Hornets team. LaMelo Ball, Leaky Black, Marcus Bolden, Seth Curry, Trey Mann, who's doubtful, Cody Martin, Bryce McGowan's, Mark Williams. Then Eric Gordon, Damian Lee, Nas Little, Josh Okogie, Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, Max Strus, Dean Wade. So there's still a lot of potential around Cleveland. Zach LaVine, Patty Williams, both out for extended periods. Missed a P in Steph's name. Steph Curry is still out. He'll be out for a couple of weeks. What did I do? Brought up the code window. Chetty Osman, Scotty Barnes, Chris Boucher, Jakob Poeltl, Emmanuel Quickley, Gary Trent Jr., Kristaps Porzingis, Malcolm Brogdon, Shaedon Sharpe, and Jabari Walker. So we've already got that known value in Portland and could create a little bit more. Known value in Toronto could create a little bit more known value in Charlotte. So, yeah, ugly one. Let's take a look at the Vegas board. Starting from the top, Charlotte at Detroit. Ugly game. Detroit favored by 4.5 at home. How many times have we said that this season? 217-point total there. Phoenix at Cleveland. Phoenix favored by 6.5 in Cleveland. 220.5-point total. Kind of stout defenses. Obviously, we've got some firepower on the Phoenix side. Cleveland missing some key parts. It's going to be tough for them to hang with. That'll be the interesting thing. Can they carve enough off of Phoenix's usual upside with their defense to see if they can manage to score and hang with this team? Should be an interesting game. Dallas at Chicago. Dallas favored by 4 on the road. 232-point total. Luka looking to continue his run of 30-point triple-doubles. I think he's at, 5 now? Was it 5 or 6? I forget how many it is, but whatever it is, it's an ongoing record. He's been in the 70s or more in a handful of across all of those recent games. So he's just been ridiculous lately. Golden State at San Antonio. Golden State favored by 5 on the road. 226-point total. We're expecting Wemby back for that one. Raptors at the Nuggets. Nuggets favored by 16 at home. Not great. 230-point total there. Could definitely run this version of the Raptors team out of the building pretty easily. And then Boston's favored by 11.5 in Portland to end the night. Just 218.5 in that one. Especially with everybody coming into the day questionable. It gets dicey with a spread like that, with a total like that. We're going to definitely be taking some of these stars on the Boston side out of that game. It's just how much do we want to pile into that last game of the night? With all three of these guys from Boston looking good, I'm imagining there's going to be a Celtic in basically every lineup that I build or any lineup that I would put into a 150. There would be quite a few of them. You've also got Sammy Hauser down here. The name I'm not seeing is Peyton Pritchard. Now I'm curious. Wow. Pritchard did not come through at all. Is he just getting boxed out by somebody? That's weird. Now we're examining. Pritchard might have more upside than this. We've also seen them do different things where it's not necessarily like, Drew's out, White runs the point, Pritchard steps into direct backup type minutes into, they've done things where Sammy Hauser gets the start and plays alongside Horford and Jalen, Derek White, Tatum, which is likely the direction they're going tonight with Pritchard or with Porzingis out as well. So with those two out, I do think there's justifiable minutes for Pritchard, but it looks like we're not getting over the top on him, which I'm a little surprised about. Let me see where I'm at with him real quick here. I give him like another fantasy point or so, or another minute or so. I'm just starting to stall out on this point. I was just expecting to see, more like this. I wasn't expecting to get him here, but I was expecting to see a little bit more meat on the bone there for Peyton Pritchard with a 28-minute projection, 4,300, 3,800 on DraftKings. He's 6+ points per dollar on DraftKings. I assume he's just getting boxed out by better options. Like we've got Freeman Liberty at 3,500 taking up a ton of those shares. Grady Dick is falling into some of those. Derek White is falling into a lot of those at a higher price point. And then you got this run of guys. So I think there's just enough value. You've got Craig Porter here at 33, who's taking up a lot. I think Pritchard's probably more playable than what the Sims are looking like for us here. We did get him 6% of the time against his 1.7% win rate on DraftKings. We didn't get him at all on FanDuel at 4,300. At 38 on DraftKings, I feel like he's a little bit more playable than this might look like. It's just that there's so much weight going into these guys. And primarily, like these key competitors up at the top who are similarly priced. That's an interesting one, though. Good way to start us talking about the guards, though. What's going on, Could Be Travis? Good to see you, pal. I'm going to lose until I win the millies here. 6. Thanks, I'm a loser. Yeah, 6 straight of 35 points or more triple doubles for Luka. That's bananas. The season-long numbers at 1.66. Right there. It's funny, I'm looking at the window that you guys see, so my mouse is actually up on that 0.77, but the one you see is on the 1.66 for Luka. Anyway, or no, it's not. I had that backward. That's what I'm trying to point at. I have 2 cursors on my screen was the point. Let's see. Trey's here. Trey just got out of work. Goddamn HDMI was screwing up again. Modern technology. Good to see you, pal. Glad you made it. So, yeah, to start with, Freeman Liberty, great name. One of my favorite new names in the NBA. 3,700, 6.66 points per dollar on the FanDuel slate, 7.35 points per dollar on the DraftKings slate. I think we saw somebody in the 8s the other day, but that's one of the higher marks we've seen. 64.1% win rate, got into 86% of the top 150 at 3,500 on DraftKings, 86% of the top 150 on FanDuel with a 56% win rate. I've just got him at 28 minutes. He's played in 6 games. He's played less than 10 minutes a night. He played 18 minutes the other night, put up 10 FanDuel points. Clearly not going to get us there. There's other uncomfortable options on that team like Grady Dick, who's been at 0.66 per minute on the season, 15% usage. He played a full 39 minutes the other night. He put up 17 FanDuel points. Again, you can run into trouble awfully quickly with these types of guys. There's just going to be, from injuries, absences, so much opportunity for them today. And if we lose Bruce Brown, I expect RJ to play because he's probable. But if we lose Bruce Brown, who's missed a few and is questionable, that creates a bubble of 26 minutes. He's down there on line 47. So that creates a bubble of 26 minutes to spread out across that team now. It's just ugly with all the missing parts. So those guys will only look better if those things change. Right now they look like just value locks. Locks is a strong word, but strong value plays. Hey, chill. Joker's excited about them. He can't wait to play some Freeman Liberty tonight. Buddy, you need to go lie down. We're just starting out. Got a long way to go. More comfortable options in Derek White, Jaylen Brown, right there at the top. Jaylen for 82. Small forward shooting guard, 5.07 points per dollar, giving you a 40-plus projection, 1.12 points per minute over the course of the season. 34 minutes the other night, put up 39 FanDuel points. I think I still have it open. Yes, I do. I did a real quick, just as I was firing up the show over on Wowie. Jaylen with no, just Zinger and Drew Holiday taken off, just for simplicity's sake. Jaylen over the course of the season, 264 minutes, 555 possessions, 1.19 FanDuel, 1.22 DraftKings. Derek White, 1.21, 1.22 FanDuel DraftKings. Jason Tatum, 1.40 FanDuel, 1.47 DraftKings. Peyton Pritchard, 0.91 FanDuel, 0.96 DraftKings. Horford, 0.85, 0.86. Hauser, 0.76, 0.81. So for Jaylen, we see a moderate uptick. For Derek White, we see a bit of an uptick, right? Yeah, we see a decent sized uptick into the 1.2s for Derek White. He's been at 1.01 for the season. So that's a key spot. Tatum, obviously, we're getting Jason Tatum star power, if nothing else, and that 1.4 is, I believe, in the territory that he's at for the season. That's up for him as well over the season, about 1/10 of a point per minute. So there's a lot of upside around the 3 key guys in the starting lineup. I do think you could squeeze a little bit out of Al Horford at 5,600, center only on FanDuel, power forward center on DraftKings. Not the top play of the day. We'll see where he landed in Sims. But to the point of Peyton Pritchard, again, could create some value there. 4,300 on FanDuel, 3,800 on DraftKings. The prices are right for Peyton Pritchard to succeed. He just needs a little bit of time to do it. And then Sammy Hauser is the other key. So a lot coming out of the Celtics. Karis LeVert back in action for Cleveland. 6,800. The price is right. It's an is who he is kind of a price on both sides. 67 on DraftKings, shooting guard, small forward. Looks a little bit meatier on FanDuel against the higher cap. 37% win rate, 40% of the top 150. 27% win rate, and 28% of the top 150 over on DraftKings. LeVert's been at 1.02 for this season. Don't have the... Oh, wait, let me see if I can... I'll just tell you where I put him for today, which is like right in line with what he's done lately. Got him at 1.10. Bit of an uptick. You could give him a little bit more than that, actually, for the uptick for the situation. It's just the opponent. I'm keeping it down just a touch. Like, I'm not giving them their full situational bonus because of the opponent that they're playing. That game is a 221 point total. It's the 4th from the top or 3rd from the bottom. Devin Vassell, assuming that he's back. He was what? He was probable or questionable? Vassell is probable. So I would expect to see Devin Vassell 1.02 per minute over the course of the season. Got him a little meatier than that tonight. They're picking up a few possessions going up against Golden State, but Golden State obviously has some good defensive components. A guy like Vassell, though, get him into a little bit of a shooting contest, get him going, get him a little bit hot. I think it's justified keeping him a little bit accelerated. He's somewhat popular, but it looks like we're getting him basically around the field on FanDuel. Then on DraftKings, little slight bit ahead of the field on Vassell at 7,600 point guard shooting guard on DraftKings. At 8,000 shooting guard only on FanDuel. He does look good, mid-teens across both slates. But in terms of the points per dollar, he dips a little bit by comparison to all these guys around him on the board at 4.95. Dips a little bit by win rate comparing to those guys, and our exposure is a little bit lower. But a good enough component in that game. The guy I'm really looking forward to talking about is Wembanyama again. Since I believe it was February 1st that I was using, might have been like February 10th. I forget which. But over the last month or so, I keep touching on it and it keeps on going up. Victor Wembanyama has been at 2.0 FanDuel points per minute. 2. I don't recall seeing that. Maybe for a stretch for guys like Giannis, and I don't know about a month. Just bananas how good that kid is. Especially for fantasy. And as I've said a bunch of times, it's the worst he's going to be. It's the worst we'll ever see him this year. I have no idea what the ceiling is. Stephen Leibowitz saying, I'm thinking the Raptors injuries make it harder for me to want Jokic or Murray with the high blowout risk. Yeah, I mean, it's tricky because at a certain point, we're just going to have a ton of money to spend. And at a certain point, those are going to be just the highest raw scorers on the slate, blowout or no. So there's a give and take there. Like, it might be a day where, yeah, maybe Jokic doesn't have 90-point upside, but 70 will do, and he's probably going to, if they blow him out, he'll probably be in that territory, even if he doesn't play the last 8 minutes of the game. I do think you're getting to, pretty high-end plays. But you can see, like, among the guards here, Luka at 12.8 is pulling a decent little number on FanDuel, and a higher number at 12.4 on DraftKings in a more competitive game. So, yeah, I think that's, somewhat justifiable. I'm looking for Murray as I'm talking about this. Oh, there's Murray right there. A couple spots above Luka. Murray for 84 on FanDuel, 82 on DraftKings. That's the other thing about Murray. It's not like he's priced like a star. So he doesn't even really have to do that much beyond his median projection at those prices. He's already looking pretty good. Get Murray to 50 and you're all right. And he could do 50 points against that team in 3 quarters. I don't really have an issue with expecting that. 56 in 37 minutes the other night. 48 to 50, I think, is reasonable if you give him, cut 5 minutes off. But yeah, it is definitely a back of the mind concern, Steven. And then, as I was saying when I was running down the Vegas situations, the one that's a little bit even bigger in my mind is the Boston-Portland one. That one it's 11.5 now. It went up by 2 points when those guys were confirmed in. Just a 218.5 point total. Half the Blazers out. Like, that's a spot where I get a little bit more worried about what that blowout looks like, especially with the way those guys are hitting the board. It's just these guys also not crazy high priced by comparison to like the Jokic's of the world, the Lukas of the world. So I do think they're in the mix. And I do think it's probably a situation where we just get, they blow them out. You're going to want to be a part of at least somebody from that side, Denver play Jokic and Murray against the Raptors. So you can have fade this game in SE and still have a chance, or is Jokic and Murray strong plays regardless of game strip? Feel like we just went through that one. I'm a loser. I think you were just chatting with Steven there. But yeah, that's my read on it right now, and I'm just kind of relying on the percentages of probabilities. If you wanted to just say, hey, I'm going to take them at a 5-point probability discount because I think they're going to not be great, that still puts Murray at 15% winner on FanDuel. 19-ish percent of the top 150. On DraftKings, it becomes more like 12 and 21. If anything, I think you let the field run away from those plays a little bit, and you can take them a little bit more. Well, not more, like don't get more than what we're showing here in a full game. But I think you can take a bit of comfort from it, right? That they would still look good even if you took 5 minutes away, 5 percentage points away. And if anything, if the field leaves too much of them, advantage you. Misic continues to look good with everybody from Charlotte missing. 28 FanDuel points in 31 minutes the other night. Not going to get us there. 0.77 per minute on the season. 18.9% usage rate in his 43 games, but obviously a lot of mixed situation there. And again, we're dealing with no LaMelo, Leaky Black, Marquez Bolden, Seth Curry, Trey Mann, doubtful, not expecting Trey Mann to make a miracle appearance. Cody Martin out, Bryce McGowan's out, Mark Williams out, so just a lot of bodies missing there. They're also going up against one of the worst teams in the league, matchup of two of the worst teams in the league. As I said, Detroit actually favored in that one. I love the looks of Cade Cunningham on the next line down for 8,600. 13% winner on FanDuel, 14% of the top 150, 8,400 on DraftKings, 17% winner, and we actually got him 32% of the time on DraftKings. I'm just going to talk from my actual sheet so I can just point at these things. So yeah, Cade just looking solid right in here. Oh, but now it's a plus sign, not an arrow. Yeah, well, what are you going to do? It's funny that after like almost a year of doing shows, I'm just discovering what this cursor thing looks like. Craig Porter coming out of Cleveland, just 18 minutes projected. Potentially a little bit more run than that. Did play 24.5 the other night, put up 19 FanDuel points. It's been at 1.03 in his backup role, playing just 14 minutes a night over 40 games this season. Does have decent usage, does have decent per minute numbers when he gets out there. With a lot of missing bodies, could he get into the 20s again minutes-wise? Sure. Like I said, at 18, he's hitting the board fairly, well, not at all on FanDuel, but fairly hard at 3,300 on DraftKings. 14.8% winner. Just got him 10% of the time. Because, well, that's right about the field. On FanDuel, yeah, the field's nowhere. So he doesn't come up relevant really at all on the FanDuel slate, but one to watch maybe on DraftKings for a little sneaky value at just 3,300. Could also argue that he might play fewer minutes. Caruso, Brendan Miller, Chris Paul, Darius Garland. Just picking off some good names through that list. And then you got like Sammy Hauser, KCP, Kobe White and Dosunmu are obviously really good. Some playability through the middle here. Caruso, 12% winner. Just 2% of them in the top 150 at 5,900 on FanDuel. 12%, and again, just 2% of them in the top 150 on DraftKings. Let's see what's up with his ownership. Field's getting to him a lot more than that. It's one of our, so far anyway, and across the few guards we've talked about, one of the bigger anti-field plays so far. I don't think he looks bad by any means. 0.91 per minute over the course of the season. Put up a 37 in 36 minutes the other night, giving you a little bit more than a point per minute. Not the highest usage rate guy in the world, but does a lot on the basketball court. Finds his fantasy points in most situations. I've got him projected pretty similarly to some other places. They've got him projected for ownership, like basically in line with the win rates. And we're coming up well under the field on him. So we're probably just dedicating these guard and guard forward spots to just more of these guys across our top 150. And it's booting him out versus the public's ownership. If you wanted to take it out to 10%, I think you're fine. If you wanted to go to 12, I think you're fine. I wouldn't go beyond the field on him, though. Looks like he's a little bit popular. Miller going up against Detroit. 0.87 per minute on the season. He's been on the 1.0 on the nose for tonight. He's been in that range over the past couple of months. Plenty for him to do. 36 minutes projected. Significant upside. I don't know what the ceiling looks like. Like the price at 7,000 is starting to catch up. 7,200 on DraftKings has caught up even more. I just think there's still a little bit of room there, especially just going up against an atrocious team. Put up about a point per minute the other night. I expect them right back in this general range again tonight. 18% of them in winners on FanDuel, and we got to them more than that. 12% of them in winners on DraftKings, got to them a little less than that. We're slightly behind the field on DraftKings. We're a little bit ahead of the field on him on FanDuel, which I think is correct. I think that's where we want to be, given how he's priced. Actually, we're more than a little bit ahead of the field on FanDuel. Not double, but solid handful of points ahead of the field on FanDuel. I like that spot. Sammy has been at 0.71 per minute over the course of the season, but like I read off before, since the start of the season, no KP, no Drew. He does jump to 0.76 FanDuel, 0.81 DraftKings, so a minor uptick. We've seen him jump into the starting lineup a bunch of times in this type of a situation. He's priced at just $3,900 on FanDuel. That said, didn't really hit. On DraftKings, we got to him a little bit. 11.8% winner, just 6% of the top 150. Probably pulling a little bit of popularity over there. He's pulling a lot of popularity. Goddamn. They've given him more minutes. Where I'm basically splitting Hauser and Pritchard a little bit, it looks like they went the other way, which pushed their ownership number up for Hauser since I did this sim. I don't know that 30-ish percent Hauser is necessarily right. We're still just talking about, even in a good situation, we're still talking about like 0.81. I think we would want that fourth quarter blowout run for him to support a little bit of upside. He's very cheap, $3,600. You're not making a mistake if you play a lot of Sam Hauser necessarily, especially if he's starting. If I gave him the additional 3 minutes, it would put him into the 20-point projection range. I would say maybe double this number in your head and double that number in your head, and that's probably right. 22% win rate, about 12% popularity, which would be about half the field, a little bit less. I think that's probably correct, just guesstimating it. At 25 minutes, he just looks like this. But if you gave him those additional couple few minutes, basically took him away from Peyton Pritchard. They've got it reversed from what I do. I've got 25 Hauser, 28 Pritchard. They've got it the other way around. For Pritchard, if we do end up going that route or something, in that kind of range, or we get him, Hauser definitely starting, Pritchard definitely off the bench. Say this drops to 24, it's obviously not going to help his numbers here. So Pritchard, oddly, just not landing at all, and potential to go down from here. I don't love that with a 6.08 per minute. This would drop into the fives, obviously, but it would still be pretty high fives. High five guys are usually up here when we're talking about points per dollar. But again, there's a lot of positional blockers here. Celtics are interesting and weird tonight. A lot of potential variability, and that is the last game of the slate. That's a 10:30, so we got an hour and a half. Basically, everything's going to be, all the early games, the 4 early games are going to be over. Toronto-Denver will be in the mid-third quarter when that one starts. Boston and Portland, and that's probably slate deciding in that last game. So I would definitely leave some flexibility. I definitely think there's justification for owning a lot of parts from the Boston side. We'll find the Portland guys along the way here somewhere, I'm sure. Here's Delano Banton for one. Banton, the price is just kind of up to speed. $5,400 is a lot for Delano Banton. $5,100 is a lot for Delano Banton. Still pulled a 4% win rate on DraftKings, but we didn't get him. 1% win rate on FanDuel, didn't get him. He's been very good in this role for them. He's been around a point per minute, 0.98 for the season, put up a 40 in 42 minutes the other night. Definitely has upside if he jumps into the starting lineup, has upside to run into, the mid-30s minutes-wise, and that would change this expectation a little bit. But right now, at these prices, mid-20s type minutes, mid-20s type expectation, not getting there. Anthony Simons all the way down here. No real love for Simons at 8,100 on both sites. Both guard spots on both sides. Just kind of priced as who he is. Around a point per minute. 8,100, 42 minutes the other night. Put up 36 FanDuel points. Tons of usage, tons of opportunity, but going up against the Celtics, never a good situation for anybody. Going up against the Celtics as like the key focal point for the team's offense with everybody else missing, especially if they lose some other parts. Not ideal. The other parts, again, Jeremy Grant, Ashton Haggins are questionable. So we lose Grant. That drops 35 minutes back into the pool. I actually don't have Haggins projected. Maybe I should have. And then Justin Minai is also questionable. He also doesn't have any minutes right now. I'm going to highlight Haggins. I might have to... I'll highlight him. I'll end up giving him a couple of minutes, and then he'll end up scratching. But I'm just going to usually go with the project the questionable guys approach. But yeah, I do think that there's good cause to take a few pieces from that Portland-Boston game. If nothing else, to just reserve a little flexibility into the evening. You probably want to get those decisions made, and hopefully we have all of any pending news ahead of like the 9 o'clock game, the Toronto-Denver game. Obviously, if you can get it in there before the 8 o'clock game with maximum flexibility, great. But I would want to be able to move some pieces around, especially with Toronto-Denver being the other later game at 9. See what you guys are talking about. Banton's Trey's guy. All right. I had him the other day when he was in the starting lineup. I just think the price is up a little bit, and it's just having an impact on his overall sim numbers. But if you get him into the 30-minute range, even at these prices, it'll look a lot better. What did cause that? It looks like Jalen Duren only played 16 minutes in that game, and Aja Thompson only played 11 in that game. Wiseman jumped up to 30. Sasser played a handful. I've just got him back to usual run tonight, 16 minutes. Or 14 minutes, actually. He's averaged 14-7, so I could split the difference and call it 15, I guess. What happened with Duren in that game? Yeah, Duren had 3 first-half fouls. He played a little under 4 minutes, picked up 2 fouls in the first, didn't come back until a quarter of the way through the second, played 6 minutes, picked up another foul, and then started the second half, played 30 seconds, picked up another foul. So he was at 4, sat the rest of the third quarter, came back in the fourth quarter, and played 4:57. Totaled 15.8 minutes. And that's a direct 1-for-1, him and Wiseman. Actually, it wasn't entirely a direct 1-for-1. Who did they run back out there? There's a couple minutes where it wasn't a 1-for-1, but primarily that's a 1-for-1 Wiseman and Duran. So just foul trouble, it looks like. I just wanted to, I hadn't caught that actually, so I'm glad you asked. But I think that Wiseman thing was just foul trouble. If we get no Ajer Thompson, that'll create potential havoc in that ugly Detroit group. Already got decent projection on Cade and Jaden Ivey. Just looking where we could land minutes. Fontecchio maybe goes up a bit, and then it's just crap. I would think Quentin Grimes will get more than the minutes I'm giving him now. Fournier probably gets a few more minutes, which isn't comfortable for anybody. I hate to see if like the down bench guys are healthy, like the Troy Browns of the world. I think he's active with the team. Yeah, that would get a little interesting around like Fontecchio went 32 the other night. That could potentially be a little bit interesting if we lose Ajer Thompson. Let's see, where were we? Darius Garland came out with just a 21-point night in 27.5 minutes the other night. Had a decent game a couple back on a night where I said, what we've been getting from Darius Garland is around his usual production, blah, blah, blah. I went out and did a little bit better than that. I don't remember what the number was. But all the usual things apply about this situation for Darius Garland. Like missing those bodies should be helping vault him every single game into, 1 and change, 115, 120 kind of territory. And a lot of these, it really just hasn't. So we're giving him a little benefit of the doubt here. Got him at 106. Could go higher, if I wanted to call it 112. That would put him into the 40s. As is, we're just, slightly shy of 40 on FanDuel, into the 40s on DraftKings already. I have no issues with the Garland play. I don't love the matchup for them. I don't love the game environment overall, but if you think of, the rising tide of stars playing against other stars and wanting to keep competitive in this game, and like what I said before, if they're managed to hold Phoenix down a little bit with their defense, Darius Garland's one of the guys who's going to have to score them their points to keep competitive in that situation. So I don't dislike Garland. I think he's maybe a little bit better than this on DraftKings. 9% winner, 5% of the top 150 at 8,000. On FanDuel, it's 76. That's a pretty good price for Darius Garland in this situation. 18.3% winner. Got to him just 12% of the time in the top 150. He's probably a little bit popular. He's a lot popular. Like a quarter of all lineups. I guess that's a lot popular. DraftKings, he's way lower owned than on FanDuel. Kind of like what we're seeing here. We're a little bit behind the field. I'm good with being behind the field on him, I guess. Like this is about half. That's just a couple points behind. But I do want to have him. If I'm building 150 lineups tonight, I do want to have my fair chunk, my 15% or whatever of Garland, maybe 10% on DraftKings. KCP just is who he is, kind of a day on both sites, really. 10% winner, 8% of the top 150 for 5,200 at shooting guard on FanDuel. At 4,800 on DraftKings, 8% and 5%. I never really like going to KCP. He's filler. He's I've got 5,200 and the guy I want to play costs 53 and the guy at 51 I don't want at all. And I guess I'll take KCP's minutes. But you're really just buying 30 plus minutes. And that's about it, right? 0.66 per minute on the season, 12.8% usage rate. Does some other things on the court, sure, but I mean, there's not a ton of production there fantasy-wise. One of those guys that's just better NBA player overall than fantasy player. 25 points in 30.5 minutes the other night. This is about on expectation, maybe a little bit better than. So not my favorite play by a long shot, but a reasonable enough mixer with okay enough expectations that you can get to him and you can play him. Kobe White and Io, both coming out of the Bulls side of that with plenty to do today. In the 6% range for both of them on DraftKings. Got to a little bit more Kobe White at call it 5%. Just about 1.3% of Io DeSunmu at 6,300. Io's cheaper on FanDuel than he is on DraftKings. 62 multi-guard eligible. Gets him into 16% of winners, but we just got him 5% of the time in the top 150. And that's like a third of his popularity. I think there's more room on Io if you wanted to go 10, if you wanted to go 12, even if you wanted to push it out to the Fields level. I don't have that big an issue with it. I don't think it's necessary. It's not really projecting like that. But like 10, 12% might be okay. The 5% against the field is a little bit light, but it's also a caution spot. Right? When we come up against the field like that, where we're a third of the field, a quarter of the field, like that's the Sims telling us this guy's not really price and position. There are better options. Yes, Io could succeed. Yes, he's had a bunch of really good games. But the way that the price is bouncing off this slate, the way that the price is bouncing off a lot of these guys that need to fill those same positions at much, much higher rates, the Sims tell us, yes, he could succeed. Yes, he does get into winning lineups from time to time. But the best shots at winning don't include him as much. That's what these numbers mean. Sims courtesy of acemine.io, by the way. Bruce Brown, if he plays, looks reasonable. 4,500, pretty cheap for Bruce Brown. 0.81 per minute on the season. Presumably more to do if he's out there, just given how depleted they are. 4,800 point guard small forward on DraftKings. I like the eligibility between the two positions. Didn't come up at the higher price point against the lower cap. 5% winners, but 0% of the top 150. I wouldn't begrudge you a few shares of Bruce Brown on DraftKings, but he looks pretty good on FanDuel. 16% winner, 11% of the top 150. You obviously just need him to actually take the court. Ooh, wow, he's popular. So while he does look good, the public popularity is ahead of our win rate and about double our exposure in our top 150. Something to chew on. Did I mention Chris Paul? Chris Paul at 7,000 point guard only, 6,900 point guard only on DraftKings looks really good to me. 18% winner, 18% of the top 150 on FanDuel, 10%, 11% on DraftKings. The price is right for Chris Paul in this situation, going up against the Spurs. Nothing really to worry about there. 29 minutes the other night, put up 37 FanDuel points. He's been at 1.01 for the season. But in this configuration of the team, that number is significantly higher. And I didn't even give him all of it. Let me get back to it. So let's see. All right, we got no Steph, no Looney, and the rest of them we're all right. So for the full season, 445 minutes, going back to the start of November anyway, 1.06, minor jump. But if we look more recently, smaller sample, just under 100 minutes since the start of February, 211 possessions. Small sample. Big asterisk for small sample. This is about a quarter the sample size of that full season number. But over that stretch, the most recent run, it's been at 1.40, 1.38 DraftKings. I didn't put him at that level, like I said. I'm keeping saying about it, obviously. But I gave him 1.2. I think there's good cause to consider him at about that level. If I took them back to right in line with where RG's got them, they're at like 115 or so. I think there's more meat on the bone there, especially against this opponent. Golden State picking up 4 possessions. Kind of a pushover, unless he just runs into Wemby's 11 feet of shot blocking ability before he jumps. Kuminga over that same stretch has been at 1.09. Got him in that basic territory today. Reasonable upside for Jonathan Kuminga on most slates the way he's been playing this season. Trace Jackson Davis is one of the most popular players. I'm just looking at the other spreadsheet here, so I'm talking about some of these Golden State guys who aren't on the screen. But Jackson Davis looks, like a very, very good spot. One of the more popular players on both sites. He's been at 1.26 in 155 minutes in this situation since the start of February. Good eligibility. Really interesting per minute piece. Let's jump back over to the thing that you guys can actually see. I talked about most of these guys. Jaden Ivey is who he is. Kind of day, 5.49% winner, 2% of the top 150 on DraftKings, 2% winner, none of the top 150. Kyrie, same number, 2.6% winner, none of the top 150 on FanDuel, 5% winner, 1% of the top 150 on DraftKings. I'll take a share of Kyrie here and there, any given slate at any time. Capable of giving you a point per minute plus, is a 1.23 per minute player on the season, I should say. Can land in this territory and sometimes a little bit below that, but typically your basement is like a point per minute and can give you into the 1.4s and 1.5s on pretty with ease. Chicago is a decent defensive squad. There's not crazy additional upside in for anybody in that game. So at 9,400, 8,800, he's just kind of priced correctly. Just looks like a is kind of night for Kyrie as well. Trey Jones, a minor play on DraftKings at 55. You got to him 3% of the time, 4% in winners. On FanDuel, not really looking all that relevant. It's 5,800. Just some 6%ers here. Sam Merrill. Sammy delivered a 14-point night in 21 and change minutes the other day. I'm just done with Sam Merrill days. He's not shining through today. He's not a crazy, awesome play today, so good riddance. Talked about it the first Sam Merrill day. Needs to go out there and knock down those threes, and if he doesn't, we're not getting anything. And that's what we got the other day at pretty strong popularity. Pritchard, we've talked about. Who was the other 6? Oh, Clay. Another piece from Golden State. 6,000. 6% winner on FanDuel. Got him 2% of the time. Just 1% winner on DraftKings. 0% of the top 150. Did give us a 30-plus in 25 minutes the other night. I've got him in around that territory in minutes again today. Reasonable expectation of additional upside for a guy like Clay. It's just he's not been great. 0.88 per minute over the course of the season. Playing about 30 minutes per night, but lost his starting gig when they're at full health anyway. I think the price is correct for there to be a little bit of upside for Clay if he plays. Well, not even if he plays. If he plays just around the 25-26, I think he's got 32-point upside. If he plays into the 30s, I think we're back up to talking about potentially point per minute kind of upside. Mid-30s, 40-point upside against this team. We just really haven't seen him do that a lot. So right now, I think he's just safely relegated to like this kind of territory. Grab a few shares maybe on DraftKings, few shares on FanDuel, but not a priority right now. Christian Brown, not really looking like a priority on either site. Could see some additional run late in the game if they are completely lighting up Toronto, but right now with just 18 minutes, not really hitting the board. I don't think I would throw him into a lineup just, on spec. If I'm building 150, maybe you get to him like once because he does have a 1.3% win rate anyway, which would go up if we projected him at even 22, 24 minutes, which I think is probably the ceiling. But I don't know how many times I would go to that just on pure spec. Like they're definitely going to blow him out. He's definitely going to pick up additional minutes like that. That starts to get really thin really fast when you start compounding those. I think this, I think that on top of these. A lot of times the default position is, or the safest default position is just, what do they normally do? What is this normally going to look like? Brendan Podziemski, 2.6% winner at 6,100 down the board a little bit here. 0% of the top 150 on FanDuel, and even lower than that on DraftKings. It's the last even moderate outlier side to side. Jump over to the forwards. Pop back into the chat, see what you guys are talking about. How healthy is Wemby? What am I, a doctor? If he's out there, he's out there. That's my take on Wemby. Out of everybody in the league, and possibly out of everybody in the history of the league, I think they're going to be the most precious and cautious with Victor Wembanyama. If he's at all at risk, I mean, everybody's always at risk of like, oh, there goes the knee. But with like stuff that you can predict, right? His hamstring's been sore, whatever the injury's been. I don't actually even remember what the injury's been. Soreness, anything lingering, anything like that, he's just going to take a seat. If he's out there, I think we expect full production. Maybe Pop limits the minutes, which could be an issue to look at. I mean, let's even see where he is. I was just, when I brought him up before, I just wanted to talk about that ridiculous 2.0. Right now, he's not looking like a crazy good play at 30 minutes. If Pop gave him 26, 28, relegate him a little bit just because of the missed games recently, then yeah, that immediately shaves some of his value even lower. But it's not like he's a crazy play right now anyway. I just wanted to talk about it's 1.7 for the season, and since the start of February, it's been 2.0, which is just bonkers. Again, Luka is at 1.66 for the season. Jokic is at 1.69 for the season. Wemby is ahead of them just for the season. Regular. No time change. Full season, 1.70. I, again, do not know where the ceiling is. Remember back in like November, we were saying like, hey, get Wemby now. Well, he costs $8,000 or we're however stupid low it was. Now we're at 11.3. We're at 10.5, which is arguably still low on DraftKings. Just bonkers good. Okay, Grady Dick, Jordan Nwora off the top of the board. Everybody's favorite players. Grady Dick especially comes with a major asterisk that this is all just about time and price and not ability. 0.66 per minute over the course of the season, a 15% usage rate. Obviously a little bit more to do with all the missing bodies. But just put up 17 in this exact situation the other day. Played 39 minutes and put up just 17 points. At pretty aggressive popularity. 4,600 shooting guard small forward, lands in 42% of the winners. 45% of the top 150 on DraftKings. Looks great. 4,400 on FanDuel. Shooting guard small forward. 59% of the winners. 67% of the top 150. Looks like a critical piece on this slate. I just don't trust him as far as I can throw him. Jordan Nwora. Much better per minute player. I'll give him that much. 0.96 per minute over the course of the season. That's 35 games playing about 11 minutes a night. It's another guy with just a little bit of minutes and price-based expectation. I've got him just at 20 minutes, 3,900 on FanDuel, 3,500 on DraftKings. Comes up at very effective numbers. Nwora last year was just at 0.81 per minute player. Got him a little bit ahead of this season's production for this situation. I just don't love it. Neither one of these guys is my favorite, but I do think that they are priorities. I do think that Grady Dick belongs in a ton of lineups today. Nwora, 22% winner, 24% of the top 150. FanDuel does look a little better on DraftKings, 39% winner and landed in 58% of the top 150. One of our highest owned plays on the DraftKings slate. That puts us way ahead of the field. Where are they on minutes and points? So this is another one where we're just running into a little bit of how I've got them projected versus how they've got them projected from where I get the ownership. I think if they had them where I have them, which is only a 2-minute difference, it's a few points, like 3 points. They wouldn't have him anywhere near here, but they would have him higher owned than what he is. This is significantly higher than the public popularity. You could play him at around the win rate. If you want to call it 35%, you're still way ahead of the field. That said, we're going to keep an eye on minutes, running up to that game. We might lose a couple of minutes. We might gain a couple of minutes. We'll see as best we can, what the lineup looks like. That's a 9 o'clock. So some things way up in the air for the 9 o'clock and the 10:30 game. Let's see if any news is broken. OG Anunoby questionable for tomorrow. Oh, he's almost back. Trey Mann officially out. That's the only news. We already had that. OG back would be great. Curveball for all that. All those Knicks minutes are going to change. That's going to be interesting for the slate tomorrow. If he's back. So yeah, out of the two, I do think the minutes are probably more secure for Grady Dick to be in like the 30s. It might drop down to as we get closer, depending on what happens. It might drop down to like 32, 31, something like that. I might move might shuffle the deck chairs a little bit on this sinking disaster of a basketball team. So Nora might lose a little bit. Certainly would lose a lot from the DraftKings side, but right now they are looking like some price-driven plays. Jason Tatum. Coming out of the other side of the Boston-Portland game. 42.4% winner, 48% of the top 150 on FanDuel. Not with an aggressively different projection by any means. He's just 9,900 is a good price for Jason Tatum. It's 1.30 per minute player. 35.8% of the top of the winners on DraftKings and got to him 51% of the time because he's only 9,500 over there. Tatum looks like a great spot. I do think, as we talked about, you've got the little bit of a risk of some blowout. But Tatum's a guy who can rack up the points really, really quickly. If they're just absolutely smoking this team, he's probably done that move where he dribbles up and just jacks up a 3 from the top of the circle and knocks it down several different times. Just a lot of upside there. There's tons and tons of usage. You're buying one of the higher projections on the slate just in a raw sense for a good price comparative to the other guys that are projected at that level. To put a point on that, would you rather have a 52-point FanDuel projection for 9,900 for Jason Tatum with maybe a little bit of risk of blowout? Or would you rather have a 44-point raw projection for 10-1 from Kevin Durant against a good defensive team? He'll probably play his full minutes. He's obviously got crazy good upside. He put up 63 and 37 against Boston the other day. I think I'd rather have Tatum for a couple bucks less. Same thing on DraftKings, 99 versus 95. Couple bucks less. Give me the Tatum side of that. Those minutes become dicey. Right now, I've got them at the same 37-minute projection, but if Tatum plays 32 and KD plays 37, that'll obviously even out a little bit. But at worst, I think it makes them about even, and you're still saving a couple bucks. So hopefully you got there with your 200 extra. Jalen, we talked about when we went over guards. Karis LeVert, we talked about on guards. Both of those guys look very good on both sites. Kelly O, been in a lot of lineups lately. Coming right back. 41.2 in 32 minutes the other night. It's been at 1.10 per minute for this season. No Boucher. No Jakob Poeltl. Just a lot for Kelly O to do right now. Center and power forward eligible for 6,800. Got him 39% of the time in winners, 48.6% of the time in the top 150 on FanDuel. At 6,900, 22% of the winners and 34.6% of the top 150 on DraftKings. I said it when you first joined this. I liked Kelly O to begin with, and now that it's this type of a situation, I'll just keep on going back there until the price is broken. We are well ahead of the field on FanDuel, and I assume the same is true on DraftKings. well ahead of the field on both sites on Kelly O. I think that's a good spot. Obviously, there's a lot of stiff competition in the front court for Denver. We do have that to worry about, but I like Kelly O to get his in this situation. DeRozan, 21% winner, 29% of the top 150 for 8,500 looks pretty decent. Put up 46 and 42 minutes the other night. 20s across the board at 8,200 on DraftKings. Very, very playable upside for DeRozan. Aaron Gordon, similar thing. Did you guys see that putback dunk that Gordon had the other night? I think I put an AG with a big exclamation point in the Discord chat when he did it. But just, I think it was Jokic was posting somebody up, little spin, got himself open, missed the bunny, and then out of nowhere, Gordon just came flying in from the wing and just soared through, grabbed it with one hand, and stuffed it back all in the same move. It was sick. I like Aaron Gordon. I've been talking about him throughout the year. Whenever he lands at a good, reasonable, mid sixes type price, especially when he gets into the low sixes like he is over here, I like going to that spot. Like I say about him every single time, he's a pretty decent scorer, very good around the rim, good rebounder, and an underrated passer. He contributes across the board. No issues with Gordon. I assume that's ahead of the field for both of those numbers. Yeah, he's in like the low teens. So we're closing in on double his ownership at 24, 23%. I like that. Al Horford, you can always get upside games out of Horford. He's never all that expensive. 5,600 with a 32-minute projection against his usual run of about 26 minutes. He did go 32 the other night, put up about 30 FanDuel points. He can get to a point per minute easily. He can get to 1.1, 1.15 and change in a good day. The price is correct if you want to roll some Al Horford. I don't really have an issue with it. 5,400, he's a 13% winner on DraftKings. We got to him less than that. On FanDuel, just a 6% winner and got to him less than that at 56. I do think there are other, other good positional options. And if you think about this game, this situation, if you get to that fourth quarter where maybe they're not blowing them out by 30, but they've got a healthy enough lead, and they start thinking about, all right, who do we want to rest? Well, old ass Al is probably one of the guys that they would want to rest a little bit more, especially when they've got a kid like Luke Cornett who had a big game the other day that they could just roll out there for a few additional minutes for him. So I could see Al, out of everybody, playing his usual 26, 27, 28, somewhere in that territory, and not quite cresting up to into the 30s. So that's one to watch. But I do expect, starting Al, reasonable run to 28 minutes is probably, the low end of the expectation. I don't think he goes much beyond 32 minutes, but I think he's playable. Davis Bertans, 4,900, plenty to do, nearly a 30-minute projection. He probably could get him into the 30s. Played 28 the other night, put up a 25 at a low price. That was an effective enough fantasy score. It wasn't great, but it didn't kill lineups. I had him in that 10th place lineup that I was talking about. I think that was that day. Pretty sure. Was that the same day? The day with Wesley and Champagne also going off for value? I think that was the same day. If not, then he was in the lineup yesterday and failed. I forget which one it was. But this was an okay one at the price. His price has gone up a couple bucks on FanDuel at 4,900. He's effective, 12% winner, 10% of the top 150 on DraftKings. Not the everybody's going to play on lock kind of a piece of chalk today, but could be a little bit sneaky maybe at these prices. It's not a great value price, but it's low enough that there's enough on both sides rate-wise that I think we can go back there. And if the field's not on it as much, it's to our benefit. He's, well, actually a little bit more popular than I thought. He's owned in like the mid-teens, so we're actually below the field on his exposure. Interesting. So I'm going to unwind that a little bit, given that. I guess I should have checked it before I started saying all that. It's just difficult because I can't have it on this same sheet because I don't want to give away their info. But I was thinking about a good way to do that the other day. Would be maybe to hide their info. Like I do have their over here. It's in that Ace Mind tab where their ownership, the projected ownership that was in the sim. So I guess I could conditionally format this against the FanDuel projected ownership where it shows like either red or green above, below. It's a clunky way of doing it, but maybe that would be a little bit more effective than me bouncing back and forth. Now that we've reached the end of the season, I came up with that idea. So anyway, on Bertans, I think I would probably want to stay in this range then. I'm not enthusiastic about it being sneaky anymore. I'll take that part of it away. Everything else stays about the same. The price is okay. It's not great. The upside is okay, not great. But given that the field is there ahead of these numbers, it's a little bit less shiny and it's not nearly sneaky. Sammy Hauser, DraftKings only, 3,600. If we talked about him. If we get him, if I change the projection into the 28 range, maybe we get him a little bit on FanDuel. He definitely goes up on DraftKings. It would be at the direct expense probably of where I have Peyton Pritchard right now. I'll make that decision as we go, but definitely looks more playable at 3,600. Looks like a good enough option with upside on DraftKings right now. And if we give him a little bit more, obviously these increase and we get him a lot more. Miles Bridges, 8,700, both forward spots, mid-teens, playable mixer on the DraftKings slate, and on FanDuel we're getting a lot of them actually. 25.5% in winners, 32% of the top 150. It's been around a point per minute for the season. With all the missing bodies in Charlotte, the best version of this scenario that I could do over the last 2 months. It's been around 1.15, I think. Little expectation above, actually. I've got him at 115 for tonight. I think it might have been closer to 110, and then I gave him a little bit just for the situation against Detroit. Picking up 2 and change possessions and going up against one of the worst teams in basketball. I think there's reasonable expectation that Bridges could succeed here, and the price is right at 8,600. It's not a bad option. Okoro, Agbaji, Fontecchio, Stewart, Thompson. A lot of guys coming out of that Detroit side now. I don't love a lot of those options. Like Baji does look pretty good just based off where his price is. On FanDuel, 32% winner, 45% of the top 150. On DraftKings, more realistic, 9% winner, 6% of the top 150. He's been a 0.63 per minute guy in normal situations, 12.9% usage. Typically low usage guy. We did see those oddball games where he came out, joined the starting lineup, and took a bunch of shots. He didn't do that in this one. 21.8 minutes and 12.7 fantasy points. Totally ineffective there. There's a little bit of upside. Keep an eye on what the starting lineup looks like in that game, obviously, as we go through the slate. It's one of the later games on the board. There's a little bit of potential there with reasonable expectation of minutes. He's one of those asterisk players. Low usage, low per minute numbers. Okoro's in that same boat. 13.8% usage, 0.74 per minute. He didn't come through nearly as well on FanDuel because he cost 5,700. At 5,000 on DraftKings, we got him a little bit in winners, but not that much against the field. More security of minutes for sure for Okoro versus Agbaji. Just, it's an is who he is spot for Okoro. MPJ looks all right on both. Definitely more playable on FanDuel, 13% winner, 10% of the top 150. Just a 7% winner and 1% on DraftKings. Fontecchio, again, could potentially benefit if we open up some minutes with Aja Thompson coming off the board. Right now at 24 minutes, he's not really hitting on FanDuel. Hit in 5% of winners on DraftKings, but just 0.67% of the top 150. But one to keep in mind at a reasonable price, 5,100 on FanDuel, 47 on DraftKings is a pretty effective price. He put up 40 in 32 minutes the other night. He's got that kind of upside. So I don't dislike the Fontecchio play if we get some changes in Detroit. Right now, it just looks meh. Bruce Brown, another guy from Toronto. Assuming he plays 26 minutes with probably upside beyond that, to be honest. He's just missed a few, so I'm usually a little bit conservative about minutes. But given all the missing bodies, I could see him playing up to at least his usual 28 and maybe even more. So for 4,500, 11% of the top 150 on FanDuel. Didn't get him at all at 4,800 on DraftKings, though. Point guard, small forward. I know we talked about him already, but just to put a point back on that. RJ, 7,700. Got him right in this territory, I think. I think it put him like into the 1.0 range. 103. It's around who he's been. He's also missed a couple recent games. 7,600 on DraftKings, just 4% across the board. Looks a little bit more playable on DraftKings than on FanDuel. I think the minutes are probably secure into the mid-30s. It's RJ Barrett, so the upside is all over the place. You can get some pretty good effective into the 40s, and 50 is a stretch, but into the 40s kind of numbers from him. More like consistent delivery of around his median projection, I feel like, than the peaks and valleys of like an Emmanuel Quickly, who's not active today. But just, the more bodies we take away, the more upside there is on any given slate for a guy like RJ. Andrew Wiggins at just 5,000. 18% winner, 9% of the top 150 on FanDuel. Didn't get him at all at 53 on DraftKings. 3% in winning lineups, but didn't come up in our top 150 lineups. Clay we talked about. Grant Williams, 5,000. Reasonable enough price. 12.8% winner, 7% winner on the FanDuel slate. Didn't get him at all at 5,600 on DraftKings. I feel like he's a reasonable mixer on FanDuel. Say one thing about Detroit, they do have some size. It's about the only thing I would give him. Williams. I've got him just around his season-long production, which is fairly low end. 0.68 for the season. It's like right in line with where I've got him. 14% usage. More of a collector of fantasy points. The price is okay on FanDuel. It's okay enough to make him a mixer. If you're building out 150, I think 7 to 10% is fine. On DraftKings, it just doesn't look like it's effective. No other outliers, really. 4% here for Draymond. I in no way would want to call Draymond Green an outlier to his face. I feel like I'd just get punched. I actually really like Draymond. Anyways, got his issues and can be a little bit of an oddball, but obviously phenomenal career. Incredible basketball player who does a lot. But just when you see Draymond in like the right environment, when they've got him mic'd up and he's cheering on his teammates as opposed to when they've got him mic'd up and he's fighting with the other team or his own team, just seems like a really good actual teammate. Calling stuff out from the bench, cheering on his teammates, cheering on the guys that directly sub in for him and potentially could relegate him to fewer minutes. I like Draymond. If I was starting a basketball team and it was like 6 years ago, Draymond would be on the list of guys that I would want to pick. Right now, I don't know if I would do that. Trey, I never really loved Keldon Johnson, to be honest. Let's see where he is. I definitely didn't say his name as we were going through all these guys. And he's got to be somewhere on this forwards page. And that's why I didn't say his name. Boy, do we not like him. 0.57% winner. 0% of the top 150 on FanDuel. 0.24% winner. 0% of the top 150 on DraftKings. 6,000. For a guy who... I'm not incorrect in remembering that Keldon used to cost like in the 8s, right? Just a dip. Just a big, big dip. He was 1.01 per minute last year. This year we're at 0.97. That's not that crazy a change. Over the last few months, that number's been a lot lower. It's been in like the 0.8 range, I think, since, let's call it the start of the new year. And let's see. And no significant lineup changes. Yeah, 0.94 since the start of the new year. I mean, a little higher than I thought it was. Since the start of February. There's a dip in here. I know there is. 0.87 since the start of February. And then, yeah, same range. So he's been in like the 0.8s, the high 0.8s over the last month and a half. You could maybe give him a little bit more than I did. Going up against Golden State. Kind of a mid defense. There might be a little bit more on the bone there for Keldon than what I gave him. Like if I give him bounce him back up to like 0.93, give him like 27 DraftKings points. I feel like that's aggressive though. Like 25 to 27 DK points on most nights in this situation, I think is probably correct. I might have him a little bit low. Steph Curry is out. Seth Curry is also out. Chris Paul's been playing 29 to 30 minutes, but in this situation, over the last like month and change, or since he's been reactive, it's I think what did I say, a 99-minute sample, something like that, a couple hundred possessions. It was of 1.40 per minute basketball. It's still Chris Paul, and he's very, very cheap. Not giving him that 1.4. I had him at in the 1.2 range, I think, tonight at 7,000. We got him pretty decently, 18% across the board on FanDuel, and then at 69 on DraftKings, 10%, 11%. So he's not a runaway freight train of a play tonight, but I definitely think he's a little bit more than tough to play, as Mamba put it. Trey doesn't like Chris Paul. All right. You play Keldon Johnson, and I'm going to play Chris Paul, and we'll see who does better tonight. Yeah, I think you can justify playing a little bit of Keldon. I think you can certainly justify playing a little bit less of Chris Paul. When we're getting these kind of numbers, there is a little bit down to taste, down to construction, down to personal choice. But there's 37 in 29 minutes. Comes out and gives you 37 at 7,000, 6,900. I'll take that. That's an upside day. I forget who that game was against. Who did they play most recently? Oh, that was against San Antonio also. That was San Antonio at Golden State. So we got a little bit of a home and home here. I didn't realize that. So coming right back against the same team that he just did this to 2 days ago. Not that that's any kind of justification for he did this, so therefore he's going to do it again. But we at least know that it's on the board in 30 minutes for him. I got no issues playing Chris Paul. Where were we? What do we need to talk about? Centers, huh? Let's do that, and then we'll take a quick look at those Ace Mind lineups. Mamba's looking forward to seeing all the Devin Vassell in Ace Mind. So I did mention Trace Jackson Davis coming out of that Golden State San Antonio game earlier, but once again, looks fantastic. 4,400 on DraftKings, 49% winner. Got him 86% of the time in the top 150. He was crazy popular the other day. Paid off a 23-minute night with 29 FanDuel points. Has a little bit more upside than that. Has been at 1.21 in his limited action over the season. 50 games, 13.5 minutes a night, but just very, very good upside here. 45% winner on FanDuel, 50% of the top 150. in his recent run. Oh, why did I go away from that? Let's call it just in all situations since the start of February, in 181 minutes, 382 possessions, Jackson Davis has been playing at a 1.32 per minute rate. Obviously, we've got no Steph. We've got no Looney. I think those are the two big pieces. So, yeah, going back to that point, let me rewind it to the first. Since February 1, no Steph, no Looney. Jackson Davis in 155 minutes, 332 possessions, 1.26 FanDuel, 1.19 DraftKings. Kuminga, 1.09 FanDuel, 1.08 DraftKings. Draymond, 1.08 FanDuel, 1.03 DraftKings. And then CP3, 1.40 FanDuel, 1.38 DraftKings. That's the smallest sample. Or no, excuse me. Draymond's the smallest sample, only 55 minutes, 117 possessions. Chris Paul, 99 minutes, 211 possessions. It's a handful of games. Right, if you're figuring 30 minutes a night, that's only like 3 and change games. That's why I didn't give him the full 1-4. But he's been very, very good in this situation recently. And then Clay has been at 0.79 FanDuel, 0.87 over 133 minutes, 290 possessions. Podziemski, 0.84 FanDuel, 0.87 DraftKings. Wiggins, 0.85 in 63 minutes. Mo Moody, 0.95 on FanDuel, 0.92 on DraftKings. So, Trace Jackson Davis, a lot of enthusiasm at the top of the board in Sims. A lot of realistic potential there. Kelly O, we talked about already, looks great on both sites. Stronger on FanDuel, but very, very good. And got him more than the win rate on DraftKings, which means he's a little less popular than he should be over there. Jalen Duren, we talked about the foul issues the other night. Only ended up playing 15.8 minutes, put up 18.1. That's a bit of a disaster at 7,300. But typically, we're getting 1.1 territory at him, 113 for the season on FanDuel, 114 on DraftKings. Came up nearly 15% of the time in winners on DraftKings, 21% of the top 150, just mid-single digits on FanDuel. Center-only site, he's playable, but not a priority over there. I do like that we're getting more Jokic at 12-1 center-only, 13.6% winner, 21% of the top 150 on FanDuel, 14s across the board on DraftKings at 11-6. Very, very easily playable on DraftKings and kind of high priority Jokic day. A lot of times when we're talking about these stars, we're still only talking about, all right, we got him. He looks really good. We got him at 9% because he's so expensive, right? The days where we get these superstars vaulted into the 20s are luxuries. This is a good day. So I like the Jokic spot. You can get him alongside Jared Allen, who's coming up a ton. On DraftKings, Jared Allen's only a center. On FanDuel, he's got power forward eligibility. Obviously, you can play them together on both sites. Allen looks a lot better on the FanDuel slate. 29% winner, 25% of the top 150. Just 9% and 6% on DraftKings. Ayton, moderately playable on both, but not a priority on either. And then Vooch, 13% winner, 19% of the top 150 on the FanDuel slate. 7% and 2% on DraftKings at 8,300 versus 81 on FanDuel. I like Vooch on FanDuel. The only issue with Vooch on FanDuel is that he's a blocker to Jokic. But, I mean, that's a large chunk of our center-only ownership. That's 40% of our center-only. And then if you want to throw in 6% there, 7%. So, across those guys, and we'll give Al his due. So, across those 5 center-only guys, that's 56% of the center-only. And then most of the other key guys have power forward eligibility. I do think there's a little bit of potential for Luke Cornett to play around 20-ish into the 20s. Got him at 18 for 3,700. He hits the board a little on FanDuel. At 3,300, he hits the board a little on DraftKings. He put up 24 FanDuel points in just under 20 minutes the other night. Good upside. When he's out there, he's a good scorer. He's a good per minute player. It's not a ton of usage, but you don't necessarily need that for a player like Cornett. Just needs the time, really. So with missing bodies, no KP, the idea that maybe Horford doesn't get to 32, they sit him in the 4th after playing 28. There's 4 minutes available beyond where I've got Cornett projected. 22 wouldn't be unrealistic. Isaiah Stewart, 10.2% and 8% of the top 150 on FanDuel. Probably mostly at the power forward spot. I can't really see him boxing out any of the center-only shares, but he's all right. Put up just 17 in 34 minutes the other night. Glad I ended up rotating him out of that lineup. He was in lineups for a little while. At 51 on DraftKings, doesn't really hit that well. 5.7% winner, 1% of the top 150. And then just Grant Williams, who we already talked about. Nick Richards, a little bit of a site-to-site difference. 5.6% versus 3.2% in winners, but got him the same 2.67% of the top 150. And nobody else really. Center's fairly tightly packed among those top options. Jackson Davis is going to eat up a lot of it, but on FanDuel you get him at power forward. Kelly O's going to eat up a lot of it, but on FanDuel you get him at power forward. I can tell you right now, my FanDuel lineup's probably going to have Jackson Davis and Kelly O at the power forward and Jokic at the center. As I'm thinking this through and just what it's going to look like, reasonably sure, especially since I'm hand building and still using the sims, and that's where like the sims are great. The data that we get out of them is great because you get all those decisions that you're usually wrestling with, where it's just raw projection. Right? You're just looking at, all right, this guy's at 45 points, that guy's at 43 points, but this guy costs 200 less. That's where the sim can really help. Even if you're only building one lineup, three lineups, you've got data to put behind that. So you can say, all right, look, I'm getting from this guy, yeah, he's 200 less or 200 more and projected similarly, but he's coming up, and against where the public is, he's coming up in sims aggressively. So it really helps inform just like what the structure of your lineup looks like, what the key players of your lineup look like. You can run a sim, take the top X, however many guys you want, and say, all right, those guys, and you could sort it by ROI, you could sort it by win rate, you could sort it by exposure in the top 150, whichever of those metrics you choose, and they all inform similar things. Whichever of those metrics you choose, you can then go back to your optimizer of choice, lock 2 of those guys, lock 3 of those guys, and then lower your randomness, run optimals, run closer to optimals, and get 500 lineups with those key guys in them. But now you're getting all the spread possible, not all the spread, obviously you're talking about hundreds of thousands of potential combinations, but you're getting more combinations with those key guys in. Those key guys will be the guys who come up the most often in optimizers anyway, but now if you put them in as locks, now you're just getting that spread, right? So you're really representing, I'm going to have these top 3 guys. And for me, like if I was to do that today, just based on where we're at right now, I would probably do those 3 guys. I would probably say Jackson Davis, Kelly O, and Jokic. Let me lock those 3 guys in. I am boxing out power forward entirely by doing that. Usually it's better to do it at 3 different positions or just use 2 guys. So maybe I would do it with Jackson Davis and Jokic and then just trust that I'll get my Kelly O shares where I need them. It's probably the better way to do that. Or you go like center, forward, and guard and spread it out a little just so that you can get to everybody. If I put both power forwards on the center, I close myself off from any Wemby, any Isaiah Stewart, any Horford, any Jalen Duren, Jarrett Allen, who looks very good. So there's different ways of putting it together, but the point is that you can use those tools even if you're just building a couple of lineups. And the good news is Ace Mine doesn't break your bank to do it. A lot less expensive than some of the other places out there who want all your winnings for the entire year per month for their sim tools. Trey says, Tara, I don't love the Freeman nor Dick nor Toronto all that much for that matter. Do we need Toronto in lineups? You probably do, Trey. At least a piece. I get you, and I'm with you. Freeman Liberty, Grady Dick, Jordan Nwora. I don't love those names. Take Kelly O. Kelly O's going to give you a reasonable game. He doesn't have the, he's a 1-1-0 player for the season. He's a 1-1-0 player over time. He's been at that level, right? It's not for Kelly O. It's not the outlier of the situation necessarily creating anything. Last year was 0.95, but we've seen Kelly O well over a point per minute many times through his career, where the Grady Dicks, the Freeman Liberties, the Jordan Nworas of the world, I trust a whole hell of a lot less. The minutes are a lot shakier for those guys. One of those guys could succeed at the expense of the other guys. You've got the Bruce Brown wrinkle in with those guys. So for me, it's kind of just a when in doubt. If you're building 3 lineups like Trey usually does, just grab Kelly O, and there's your Toronto shares. That said, these guys are the most highly owned and highest win rates on the slate. So know what decision you're making when you make that decision. I do think they're shaky plays at these high rates, given everything I just said about them. But again, you're forgoing Freeman Liberty at 50. I'll talk DraftKings since that's where you're playing. You'd be forgoing a $3,500 guard with a 64% win rate, 86% of our top 150 in Sims, a $4,600 guard forward with a 42% win rate, 45% of the top 150 in Sims, and a $3,500 power forward, 39% win rate, and 58% exposure in Sims. So maybe you go Kelly Olynyk and one of those guys in most of those lineups, and then for other lineups, maybe you grab 1 or 2 of these guys and just see how they combine with others. There is the good news that you do have, like, Jackson Davis is a reasonable replacement for one of those guys. You do have other okay values that can fill in around the edges for some of those. Craig Porter could jump into that spot, given a few additional minutes at 3,300. Even at the low minutes, he looks all right. But if you find a few additional for him, there's reasonable upside there. So I agree with you that those plays are shaky. I agree that they're uncomfortable, but a lot of times the shaky, uncomfortable plays are the ones that win DFS slates. Have a good replacement in mind and know that you're taking that big of a chunk of probability out of your lineup if you make that decision. Let's talk lineups real quick. It is 6:07. Holy hell. Every time. We just go over every single time. All right, let's see. DraftKings. Pop it up on the screen for you. So DraftKings, that's a whole hell of a lot of Jordan Nwora, Trace Jackson Davis, Javon Freeman Liberty. A lot of Kelly O. Grady Dick. The one I'm not seeing as much as in these top lineups is Grady Dick. He's here, but he's not like overwhelmingly here like some of his teammates. Very Starsy Scrubsy though, as I mentioned at the top. Luka, Freeman Liberty, Grady Dick. There's a Grady Dick. Aaron Gordon, Jared Allen, Derek White, Nwora, Jackson Davis. Jalen and Tatum in that one. Cade, Tatum, Brendan Miller, Kelly O, Hauser, Jackson Davis. It gets really scrubby really quick. Jalen Duren is good too. So actually it's 5 good, 3 scrubs. Luka, White, LeVert, Nwora, Davis, Murray, Dick, Freeman, Liberty. It's not bad. So spending wise, spend money at the point on DraftKings because you could pop Freeman Liberty into the shooting guard. You could pop Grady Dick into the small forward. And really Kelly O or Jordan Nwora, either a mid or a low end spend into the power forward for the most part. And then you've got freedom in other spots. And of course it depends on, these ones put the stars on this side and the scrubs on this side, but you can obviously reverse that. But yeah, I think we're, Trey, going back to that question about, can you skip Toronto? Like, look how much these guys are coming up. As I scroll down, just keep your eyes on those columns and just like, they're, like they are in all of these. And of course, we were reading numbers that they directly said 80-something% of these lineups. So there's a lot of those guys in these lineups. So it's a big sacrifice to skip them. I do love the Jackson Davis play, though, even if he's popular. Him at center or util seems to be a key up at the top here, right? Not many of these lineups are without a Trace Jackson Davis in one spot or the other. You can definitely say that, like I was getting at, this top lineup, there's Vassell from Mamba. I think that was Mamba that said that, yeah. And then you've got Freeman Liberty. Freedom Liberty works too. It would be fun if his middle name was Freedom. Javon Freedom Freeman Liberty. That's a badass name. But yeah, Freeman Liberty. You pick him in the guard spot, and then you go Kelly O to get your other Toronto guy in that top lineup. You don't necessarily need to pile in all three of Freeman Liberty, Grady Dick, and Jordan Nwora like this second lineup here does. That's probably the key to getting a Luka type of a play, given the differences in these lineups, right? This one gets you Tatum and a little bit more balance with Jalen in there as well, the cell, where this one went for Luka, used all three of those Toronto scrubs, and then got good, but not quite as starry, I don't think, with Aaron Gordon, Jared Allen, and Derek White. So you went like superstar, 3 good players, 4 scrubs. Apologies to Trace Jackson Davis's per minute mark, versus 1 scrub, Jackson Davis, and then Kelly O for value, and Pritchard's in that lineup too. Okay, so Freeman, Pritchard, Jackson Davis is a 3-man, quote unquote scrub, and you get more quality in that one. So that's kind of your inflection point, whether you're taking that additional low end Toronto guy, low end in terms of usage per minute, etc. And I should have highlighted Grady Dick, because among the 3, Jordan Nwora was the best per minute guy. He's just got the lowest minutes projected. Plenty of room for Jokic, plenty of room for stars, whoever you want. That tippy top lineup, ooh, that's differentiated. We'll take another look at that, because that's a solid $80 higher in terms of return on average. Bringing it back 230 against your 4, not bad. 0.18% winner, gets into the cash 30% of the time, top 1 14% of the time. So that one again, and again, that supports the idea of maybe you go one of those guys, a value from somewhere else, Jackson Davis, Kelly O, and fill out with stars to high-end players. But that one was Vassell. I go back and forth between those pronunciations for some reason. I know it's Vassell, Liberty, Brown, Olynyk, Duran, Pritchard, Tatum, and Jackson Davis. Kind of interesting. Piling up Brown and Tatum if you're worried about the blowout run, and then Pritchard in there obviously as well. Maybe you look for a different alternative to Jaylen Brown. There's probably a reasonable comp there. I don't remember exactly where he's priced, but I'm sure there's a reasonable enough pivot there. Just if you want to get away from like adding too much weight from that from the Boston side of that game. Trey says, in lieu of Toronto, is building with Banton, Bertans, Niang, and Jackson Davis. I think you're going lower end across the board on most of those, Trey. Bertans took a little bit of a value hit compared to where he was the other day. Niang, I don't really remember talking about. I think he's just priced correctly at this point. Niang, yeah, on DraftKings, he's more playable at 48, both forward spots. He was an 11% winner, but we only got him 4.6% of the time in the top 150 lineups. There he is. You could build a Cunningham, Vassell, Niang, Nwora, Jackson Davis, Freeman Liberty, Tatum, Jamal Murray. It's kind of good. Yeah, I don't think you're necessarily... I know you're on DK, Trey. I don't necessarily think that you're wrong. Like, those are probably the right guys to be pivoting to. I just think for today's slate, given the way it's breaking down, obviously you're chasing a lot of the public there if you do that. Or if you go the chalky way. I think those are the right selections, let's put it that way, for those pivots. Bertans, again, 12% winner, 10.6% of the top 150. Niang, I just read. And then the other one was who? Banton. Banton's probably the biggest question mark there. But if we find him more minutes, if he ends up in the starting lineup again, I've got him at just 26 minutes right now. And he played 42 the other night and put up a 40 on FanDuel. So obviously there's upside there. At 51, that would change with a changing scenario. That's my question right now in the right now shape of the slate, though. 5,100, I've got him just 4% of the time. Let's jump to a couple FanDuel lineups real quick. Nobody really cares about these anyway, except for me. I know all you guys play on DK. It's all right. So it's pretty much the same, only there's more Toronto on FanDuel. Freeman Liberty, Agbaji, Grady Dick, Kelly O in that top lineup. You also get Luka, Tatum, Karis LeVert, Nick Richards. I greatly prefer all the centers that I'm getting after this one. Nick Richards in that top lineup is a little bit wacky. Did that spend all our money at least? Left 100 on the table. Yeah, Tatum and Luka in just the raw projection sense. Some of the top guys on the board. But I like the center options going down the board here. Vooch, Jokic, some room for Wemby, Jackson Davis, obviously. We're getting a lot of at the power forward. Little Horford. But yeah, a lot of Jokic and Vooch, as expected, coming up in the center spot. And then fair amount of Jared Allen, Jackson Davis, Kelly O through the power forward. I probably land Tatum more at small forward, just given how much Jackson Davis and Kelly O I would want at power forward. But he's also obviously functional at the power forward spot. And that lets you grab decent small forward pieces like Brandon Miller and DeMar DeRozan, like in that lineup. This one's not bad. Vooch, Jackson Davis, Tatum, DeRozan, Brandon Miller, and then you go Dick Agbaji and Freeman Liberty, and then on the back end you get Cade. I kind of like that second lineup. I like the second lineup a little bit more than I like. It's more balanced, I think. I like it a little bit better than I like that Luka lineup up at the top. Doesn't have to get as dirty stars and scrubsy. You're talking about a $6 difference between those. It's actually got a little bit better of a win rate, 0.24 versus 0.23. A little bit lower of a cash probability, but that's a tournament lineup. Leaves 200 on the table if you wanted to try and find something to get away from an Agbaji or a Grady Dick. But that's a good use. This is a good lineup to demonstrate the value of going to three of those guys. It looks very much like we're going one-on-one, spend, save. Shooting guard looks a little bit more save. We've got a Vassell here. We've got a Clay there. Clay's not all that expensive. A LeVert. But a lot of these are Dick Agbaji. Actually, a lot of those are... I left it as if there was something else to say, but a lot of those are Dick and Agbaji together. Looks like we get spend for the most part at small forward. And then depending on how you break down your power forwards and your centers, like I said, my favored construction, I think, is a Jokic here, and then like a Kelly O, Jackson Davis at power forward with him. But there's a good mix of guys, but this is the same group of guys just flexing between different spots. Kind of like how these come together on FanDuel. That said, it is 6:18. I got to get some updates in, see what news broke, and then we're getting out of here. Fortunately, there's only the 1 7 o'clock game, and then everything else out. No minutes limit for Devin Booker. That is good. Those are Tuesday. All right, so Booker active with no minutes limit. Good overall. Good for the Suns. If Booker was out, we'd have more to work with on KD and Beal. So just kind of a flat who they are kind of a situation going up against a good Cleveland team. It's actually like 1/10 of a point per minute off of their usual numbers for everybody. So that said, guys, I'm going to punch out of here and wish everybody good luck. Mama's locking in Tatum and Luka. Hey, that's never bad. I really don't care about, I do. I care about the prices and what the slate looks like, but anytime you can use that as a starting point, it's pretty solid. With that in mind, guys, good luck out there tonight. Somebody go win something. Back tomorrow for more of the same. I'll see you.